now. Hey everybody, this is Doug Walsh and welcome to Horses a Second Language. I am super excited to start my podcast today, and I figured what better podcast partner to start off with than the amazing Mary Beth Gordon. And Mary Beth is with Purina. She is the head of research and development of new products, and I am super excited to have her on board, not only to talk about what we should be putting inside of our horses, but also Mary Beth and I have a great friendship on the horsemanship side of things and how everything kind of works together, not only with the nutrition aspect of it, which then makes our horses happy, and knowing what makes them feel the best inside. And just like with us, every horse is different. I know that if I eat a bowl of yogurt in the morning, it makes me fall asleep. Might make Mary Beth have tons of energy. So when we talk about that and we look at, and my podcast is based on a lot of just looking at ourselves as individuals and where we're at in our own lives, and also with our partnership with our horses. So if we don't have a good space where we're at, and we don't understand how our body works, how our brain works, how we kind of go through life, I think it's going to be very difficult for us to kind of understand what our horse is going through and really put ourselves in a place that's going to make them have harmony if we are dealing with any difficulties in our own life and getting in our own balance. Horses are amazing creatures in the sense that they read energy far better than we do. And I don't want to take any longer to have Mary Beth join the conversation, but I'm so excited to have her on as my first ever podcast guest. And Mary Beth, welcome.
Thanks so much, Doug. It's an honor to be here, and to be your first podcast guest. That's a lot of fun, and I love podcasts. I'm a total podcast junkie and addict. So for all the other podcast lovers out there, I hope they enjoy this conversation.
Well, and it's super excited to have here. So I know I kind of just said what you did, like in a nutshell, but like you also, I also want you to give me a little bit of background. You and I have worked together on some of your horses as well. So you're just not like this super researcher to make sure our horses are getting all great food, but you ride as well. You believe, you have a discipline of dressage and the horsemanship side. And why don't you go into a little bit of detail about that for yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the base of it all is I'm pretty much just a crazy horse person, like so many of us are. And so on the professional side, I have a PhD in animal science with a specialty in equine nutrition and exercise physiology. I direct all the research and new product development for Purina Animal Nutrition. I've been with them for 17 years, and I run the teams that do all of our research at our nutritional research facility in Gray Summit, Missouri. And then I oversee all of our technical team and our technical PhDs that help to develop all of our training materials and marketing materials and support materials and support the sales force and horse owners out across the country for our products. So, it's been a really great fit for me at Purina in terms of, my education and my passion for equine nutrition, and then being able to actually develop products that make a difference for horses. And to me, no better company to do it with than Purina because of their reach and their scope and their commitment to research. And it's really important to me to try to affect and make as many horses' lives better as possible. So I like that I can do that through nutrition. And then on the personal side, I have horses myself. I have warm blood horses. And I met you because I have an amazing, amazing mare who's like, oh my God, this mare sees right into my soul, into my heart. Her name is Gita. And I imported her from Denmark. And the mare I had when she reached American soil was not the mare that I saw in Denmark. And
yeah, I see that a lot. Unfortunately.
Yeah, right. And I really thought I did a good job because I spent a week over there, and I rode her 3 times, and she went to a horse show while she was there. I hacked her out in a field while she was there. And now that I'm a better horse person, I can see the signs, I can see it and go oh, she was shut down. Oh, she was anxious. But the stress of the trip brought it out in her, and she was just basically screaming I'm uncomfortable, I'm unhappy. And I tried some pretty traditional training routes with her with multiple trainers, and it didn't jive with what I thought would work best for her. It wasn't working for how I wanted to work with my horses. And, because I bought her to do dressage, and she's trained to do 4th level pre St. George. And, but I could hardly walk tracking her around the arena. So I'm like, well, that doesn't help. And so instead of continuing on the sort of modern dressage path with her, I was like, no, I want to go a different way. Especially because some people were telling me, oh, she's not really an amateur's horse, and maybe this isn't the right fit for you, and we should sell her to a professional or something like that. And I didn't believe that. I wanted to find a different way. I wanted to be a better rider. I wanted to be the person I could be for this horse. And I was in Wellington at the time, and you were also in Wellington at the time training. And I called you up, and I remember we had a nice long conversation, about horses and how we wanted to work with them and what our goals were, and could you help me and all that kind of stuff. And so I moved my mare to your farm that you were training out of at the time, and started a full-time program with you in the mare. And I just learned so much, and I really enjoyed that intensive time we spent together. And it was the first time, like, meeting you and working with you set me on this completely different path in my horsemanship that is just totally, it's deeper, it's more satisfying, it works for me, it works for my horses. And and everybody's got to find their path. Everybody's got to find what works for them. Are they going to develop a high performance Olympic sport horse? Or are they going to, do they like to just stay in the pasture and enjoy time with their horses? Like, or is it a trail horse? What is it? And I had to find that for myself, because I wasn't so happy in the traditional dressage world, even with the horse I had previously that was ready to do the FEI, and I'd trained him from 4-year-old all the way up. And I was a little disillusioned with the sport, and I didn't know exactly where I could end up with it. And then by working with you and finding these new ways of horsemanship, and it's not like I've thrown my dressage out the window. Because it's not like I'm like, oh, dressage is terrible and I'm never going to do that ever again. No, now I'm figuring out, well, what works from, what can I do in the dressage ring, and how do I want to do it? And then the stuff that you've taught me and work with me on with my mare, like, how does it make her happier about the work? How does it make me happier about the work, so that we can, bring the two together and then enjoy it for both of us?
Yeah, and it's interesting because when we talk about, I think that any foundation of horsemanship, doesn't matter what you're doing, if you have a ranch horse, or if you have a dressage horse or jumper horse or polo horse, is that they all should benefit from the foundations of classical dressage, not maybe necessarily the dressage that we see now as much as, but and I think it's really starting to come back more to this. And I'm not a high level dressage rider yet, but my goal is to be able to compete at the Grand Prix, just to be able to get my horses where they want to be if they want. But it's about going down a path with our horses that allow them to be relaxed and have rhythm and suppleness. And if they have that relaxation, rhythm, and suppleness, and they can use their body in a way that endorses them biomechanically, and they're happy doing that job, then I think it's going to just tie in with whatever else we do with the horses, right? So it's and I know that then, to flip things around a little bit, is that then you had introduced me to someone else that you use as well, named Josh Nickel, who's awesome. And I think he's basically has his degree in the biomechanics and the science behind the horses, and where they are, and how they can work the best and through their rhythm, through their body. So he's been pretty fascinating to actually help educate me as well when it comes to the more knowledge that we can put to this, whether it's you, Mary Beth, or myself, or Josh, or some of these great people out there that really put the horses first. And I think that's the big thing. And when we tie into that, and I'd like to ask you if you feel comfortable speaking on this a little bit, but when we tie into like where we are personally with our horses, because I think a lot of people struggle with this. A lot of people they struggle with where they're at with their horses, whether they're an adult amateur or a professional, or they're not even competing. They just want to have a relationship with their horse. Because I have so many clients that are adult amateurs that would love to show, but they just want to be able to ride their horse first, and before you even think about showing. And so when we go down that when we go down that path, a lot of people don't take the time to look and go, well, where am I in my life? What am I doing in my life? How's my life affecting the energy of my horse, and vice versa, right? And I know that I look at my own horse right now, who's very sensitive, and he had a lot of issues. And if I'm struggling throughout my days and working on how to find that balance in my own life, is that he is a mirror of me. Until he can get to that point, right? Until our horses, and most of the people watching probably have experienced this, is that, like, you want to be able to come to the barn, and if you're having a really bad day, you want to be able to get on your horse, and they take all that pressure away. They take all of your tough day and just take it through their body, and it goes right out their hoofs and into the earth, and they go, bring it on. I'm going to absorb anything I can. But a lot of horses aren't at that point yet, and some just naturally are that way, which is great. But a lot of the people that want to watch and learn and grow more with their horses, is that's the foundation that we need to get to first, in my opinion, is that we have to have check-ins with ourselves and go, is my horse reacting because the way that my energetic field is? So I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that, because I know that when I first started working with you and Geeta, that it was really like, she didn't have that trust. She didn't feel safe. Everything in life, right? Whether it's relationships or it's our relationships with horses or humans, it's all about finding safety. It's being safe in trust. All horses want to do is feel safe with their partner, whether that's a herd leader or whatever the case may be. So I'd like to have you talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great topic and one of my absolute favorites in the world. So if I just ramble on too long, stop me and we'll have more dialogue back and forth. But yeah, when I first started working with Geeta, I realized now I couldn't be the human that she needed, because she was triggering me. I was triggering her. She's spooking. I'm going, oh, please don't spook. She's like, I'm tight. I'm like, oh, I'm tight too, and it's just a vicious cycle, and then you get this horse and, she's basically screaming out loud that her needs are not being met and please help me. But, she's bolting off, she's spooking, and those are scary things. They're real things. They're very, you don't feel comfortable. And when you aren't a professional, I'm not riding 5, 6, 8 horses a day, right? I'm sitting at a desk in the office and doing a lot of work. And then I have to sort of leave my work and then go get on my horse. And I don't have the level of skill as a professional rider, and to get on something that's going to spook and bolt across the arena, that's not how I want to spend my afternoons. Right. Yeah. But like I said, I wasn't willing to just turn the training over to someone else. I wanted to learn to be better. I wanted to figure this out. And quite frankly, when I first started to, help her, and you started helping me to help her, I didn't realize how much of it really was me, because it is about, you're the person there with them. You're the person there that can help teach them to regulate their emotions. You're the one that can be there as their safe space. You're the one that can be there to be like, no, it's okay. It's okay to feel safe. Oh, and you're not wrong, by the way, to be upset or spooky or fresh or, worried, but I can help you with that. And then what kind of person do I have to be able to be that person? And then also, I didn't even understand how to project my energy to be that person. I had to learn that, right? Because it's one of those things of like, I think so many people in life can just, things happen in life. And then your energy sort of like shut down, or you don't know how to use it. Or to me, the only time, a lot of times my energy would come out of my body was when I was angry, right? That's when I could get going. But that's not the energy I need to bring to a horse that needs safety and guidance and security, right? So, and I remember you telling me like, well, you need to be more assertive. And even the word assertive to me sounded almost like too aggressive, And so for me and who I am and how I want to be, I had to figure out how to like bring my energy up, bring my energy out, but also do it in like a loving, secure, compassionate way, but also with some boundaries. Because also like, no, you can't run me over right now, even though you're afraid of something that's happening over on the other side of the road, So,
but also understanding her fear, right? So it's like, and that's where I think it was really important when just to touch on when you were talking about like assertiveness, right? Is that assertive, like, we want to create boundaries, but we also, it's like, great. I mean, I don't have children, you don't have children, but we are kids ourselves, and we have parents, and our parents set those boundaries when we were really young, in order for us. And I think that this is a tough thing when working with horses, anywhere, where it's Europe or coming to the US, is that when they haven't had the foundation at a very young age the right way, even starting as in my opinion, is when they're weaned, if they're not turned out with the right the adult horses. If they're weaned and turned out with a bunch of other, weanlings, they're just going to they're going to go off of what they all know for each other. They don't have anybody giving them the ground rules. It's an adult that can give them good supervision as a good older horse. And then that starts really the cycle of what we get then later. And so it's not that, like, when you watch horses in herds, is that things are very black and white, but they give some gray in there as well, as they're teaching them. But then they say, okay, this is how it is. So it's not about, being like assertive in the sense that, like, we just need to go, okay, this is where I am, this is where you are. And it's for safety for you and safety for your horse. Because at the end of the day, if you're not safe as the human, we can't take care of the horse. If the horse hurts the human, so we have to make sure that's number one, and then we work with the horse. So continue on. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. I'm just laughing because that I literally say that to my mares sometimes, like, because it's like I'll go down to feed dinner and it's a cold, with the fall has now come into where we're at the moment in the Hudson Valley, and it's, the wind blows and the temperatures drop 30 degrees, and you go out to feed and they're snorting and running around, and you're like, hey, knock it off. Like, I'm like, my life pays for your life. You cannot be just so wild. Like, don't, like, calm down, get in your stall, eat your dinner, Yeah. Yeah. So that whole thing of like, I can't get hurt because who's going to take care of you? So
yeah. Well, and then you find, and what you do, and I think that this is really the big balance with everything is that when we can get, it's like, it is like dancing with the dance. It's like dancing by yourself and then learning to dance together. So like your horse goes out there in the field and he dances all around and does what he or she wants to do. And we can kind of dance and have fun, right? Like sometimes, like when we were kids, we just dance and do our thing. But then all of a sudden when you incorporate a partner to it, it's like, whoa, wait a second. Now I got to worry about my dance moves plus your dance moves. And typically historically is that if the man is leading the lady, or in our case, if the human is leading the horse, it really has to become like a pilot co-pilot situation. It's a partnership, but it's still going to have to be like the pilot flies the plane, but if anything happens to the pilot, the co-pilot can fly the plane also. So that's it. And we want the co-pilot has to be independent, and they have to be willing to listen to what we have to say, right? So because we don't want to just have our horses so needy on us that when we turn them out, they go bonkers because they just want to be with us, right? So it's about creating that independence for them too. But what I find with a lot of clients, and I don't know if this falls into you or not, but like, is it's easy for us to like be so coddling to our horses because we love them so much that sometimes we get excited when they want to be around us, and then all of a sudden they start to lose a little bit of independence. Do you find that at all with?
It's so funny you said that, because I literally just asked myself that last week, because I've really spent this summer and this past year doing nothing but trying to meet my mare's needs, right? So I have the mare Gita. I also have a 6-year-old mare, Nellie. And it was really important for me with Nellie to put a really good foundation on her of all this, relational work and energetic work. And so I've just spent so much time just like walking with them and helping them release any tensions they have, and matching steps and releasing their top line, and working properly biomechanically, and not pushing the training, but just literally trying to meet all of their needs, which on one hand has been phenomenal. Like, I used to desensitize my horses and worry about things changing in the environment. And now it's almost like I don't even think about it. Like the other night I took them out, and, there was people here working on the property. So I have a mower going, I have a blower going, the dogs are running around, and I just they know I'm going to help them meet their needs if something comes up. And I know that I have the skills to help meet their needs and that they can sort of handle this stuff. Whereas before it would have sort of built up in me like, oh, the mower's going and the blower's going and the dogs are out. And I don't even feel like I have to desensitize them to dogs or mowers because I've taught them how to handle things. But then just last week, the farrier came and I noticed, because he works on them alone and I'm up working in my office and I have cameras on my barns and tack up areas and all that kind of stuff. And both of the mares were not settled. And he's a very, very calm, settled farrier, takes his time, takes a lot of time. And what I noticed is when I would leave my office and then go out there and stand with them and chit chat with the farrier, they were quiet. And then the minute I would leave, they would start to paw or be a little, like antsy and looking for me. And I thought, oh my God, I think maybe I've gone the other way. I've gone too far because they've lost their independence. And that's the first time I've seen them do that with the farrier. So I guess I'd ask you then, now what do I do? What do I do to help give them some of their independence back? Because, and maybe it wasn't, maybe they were just, that was them that day, but it did make me think, like, have I created a little bit these two monsters that are so used to having me to help regulate them that when they're around other people or doing new things that they sort of need me too much,
Well, and then but see, there's so many other things that you have to look at when you have a situation like that, right? Is because you have to look at, because I've had situations where like I had a horse that was really having difficulties getting shod. I mean, it just could not get shod. It was really upset. And then and I noticed that so I worked with the horse. I didn't know the farrier before. I worked with the horse, got the horse really good. My farrier came in, was very relaxed, calm with the horse, and had no problem at all. Well, then my farrier retired. Another farrier came in that was having some bad days. And but you wouldn't see that physically. If you saw the farrier, you wouldn't see that he was upset or anything, but you could just, the horses pick up on that energy a lot more. So they might, so that's the biggest thing. And it's so important for us all. If we're doing all of our own work on our own horses, it's different. But if we have someone who's grooming them or mucking out the barn or something like that, is that it's so important that our horses are around positive vibes all the time, as much as we can, right? And I say that it's almost like a long time ago, my dad had told me, he said, you are who you hang out with. And if you want to be positive in life, if you want to have that great feeling and surround yourself by wonderful, wonderful people, like, Mary Beth, you're one of the top in your game, right? Like, I mean, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of boutique and smaller, I guess, I don't know if boutique's the right word for it, but like feed stores out there, feed manufacturers out there. And not saying that might not be phenomenal, right? And if anything, you work for the 800-pound gorilla. And so sometimes people question the 800-pound gorilla more than they do the boutique shops, because they think, well, the boutique shops are looking out for my horse's best needs, where a company like, and I feed my horses Purina, and I feed my horses Purina, and and my local rep knows that I'll call them if I have any concerns with my horses, because if I see any change in my horses, and I'm going to go to health and nutrition first, because most of the cases that I work with horses that end up being really misunderstood, it falls back into health, nutrition, and what might be going on with them. So that being said, when you have
hold on, I'm going to stop you for a second there. I'm going to interrupt you.
Because
for you, you're like, oh, if you're having a problem with the horse, you're going to think, okay, is there something going on in their health? Is there something I can help them with on the nutrition side? But I would also say that's because you're already trying to take care of their emotional needs and train them in an empathetic and compassionate and positive way that eliminates that factor, so that you can look to the health and nutrition. We should also always be looking at the health and nutrition, but I can't tell you how many times people call me up and they're like, this is what I'm doing and this is what's happening. And I'm like, this is actually not a nutrition problem, because there's actually nothing I would change or fix in your nutrition problem. I think this is a training issue. I think this is a training issue. So yeah. So you, in some ways, you have a luxury that the horses that are in your care, like you're already meeting so many of their emotional needs that you can eliminate that factor that it's a training issue because of the way you train, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, and that's exactly it. And so it's educating people also to not be so overreactive to a horse, and go, well, we have to throw all these supplements and we have to throw this and this and this and that at them. And that's why they're acting this way. And, you know, the one that I know we have only probably about 10 minutes left. So but you know, we look at like ulcers. That's a huge one, right? Well, my horse has ulcers. So what do most people do? They call the vet. The vet comes in, says, yep, your horse has ulcers. You need to put them on Gastrogard, 1 tube a day for 30 days or whatever, which Gastrogard is not cheap. And what are you doing? You're not, you might be solving the issue at the time, but the real question is, why does your horse have ulcers, right? Same thing with us, whether we get ulcers or everybody, like we talk about disease. I love listening to podcasts by like Lewis Howes, Jay Shetty, Dr. Joe Dispenza has been phenomenal on this, but he talks about, you know, what is disease? It's disease in the body, whether it's a human or horse. So if we have, and if we can actually, and this was fascinating to me, that your brain doesn't know the difference between a traumatic event that happened and you recreating that traumatic event in your mind now. And it's not the thought that gets that, but it's actually the emotion we tied to the thought. So as we go through things in life, and we have to really be mindful about our emotions and what we tie to those, because if we tie a negative emotion to something traumatic that's happened to us, we might all of a sudden break out in a rash. We might all of a sudden get ulcers. We might have, you know, our face may break out. There's all these different things that are going to happen to us. And what is that? That's the body's way of trying to deal with the psychological torture that we're giving ourselves through an emotional connection to the thought. So when we look at horses, it's the same way as like when it comes to their health that we have to look at. And it's the first thing I look at is environmental. How's our horse feel in their environment? How do we feel in their environment? And Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, you can have two identical twins that were born on the same day. They're born on the same day, and one of them, you know, dies at 55, one of them dies at 85, and there's no difference. So it can't be genes, right? So then it's like, it's an environmental impact. What's changing the environmental impact, as well as how we handle our environment. And so I bring that up with our own selves as well as horses, because we parallel with our horses, right? That's what we talk about this whole way. So, you know, with the company, to touch back really quick with a company like Purina, is that you have, the great thing is that you're a huge company, and you've explained this to me in depth, and we'll have to do another podcast on this, but in depth on how much research goes into making sure, and there's nobody else to talk to better than you, like, you know, like you do studies of horses to go, this is what works with this horse, this is what works with this horse. So we know. How do we know? We have scientific data on it. And so when we try to mirror humans and horses and the world of how to be in balance, right? Because at the end of the day, if we're in balance and we're happy, if you're a top level dressage rider or you're going to go on a trail ride, you want your horse to be in balance and in sync with you. You want to be dancing correctly together. So if we have, and the great thing is that we found and proven that by being upset in life can create disease in our bodies. That's like the number one killer is stress, right? Well, it's stress because they might say, well, it's heart disease and this, but what causes heart disease? What causes cancers? It's all how our body, how we absorb things, how we handle things. And horses are the same way. When you get a horse that's anxious or that's spooky or that's whatever it may be, that's triggered by environmental and trauma that they've had. Horses have a pretty much like a photographic memory. So it, you know, like we want our goal is not live in the past, but like not remember the past, but remember our future, right? And the only way we can do that is, you know, we humans have 80 to 90,000 thoughts a day, and 40 to 60,000 thoughts a day. But we spend 80 to 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts from the previous day. So we spend a majority of our life talking about everything that's happened before, and we do it over and over and over again. So every day we're only spending 10% of our thoughts are only actually new stuff. So how are we supposed to progress forward? And horses are the same way, in a sense that we know that now they can self-regulate, thanks to Dr. Stephen Peters doing all this research on it. But it's amazing to me that when we're trying to build this connection with horses, we have to go, if they have a traumatic event, they don't know anything different. They're just going that, okay, if wild horses are walking through a field and they see a coyote in the bushes, when they come back through there, that coyote could be gone, but they're going to be watchful because they knew the coyote was there before.
Right.
And so that's what we have to help them with. But how can we help them with that if we aren't centered ourselves and be aware of the energetic connection, right? And that's why I love what we're teaching with horses a second language, and we have to speak the language of the horse, right? And that's when you talk about being assertive and these other things, it's really, really about understanding what they need at that time. Some horses need you to really dial it down with your energy. Some need you to really bring it up with your energy. So what are your thoughts on that? I know we have about 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes left.
Yeah, no, all the stuff you're saying, I just like sit here and like nod my head and smile, because it's exactly all the things that I believe to be true. And I guess one thing I would add too is, because I would sort of like beat myself up about this in the past, is like, whether it's you or whether it's your horse, having those negative thoughts or those negative memories, it's completely normal. Like, that's actually normal. As much as, we may not want them, and we may not want to feel the anxiety, or we may not want to feel the fear. It's normal for us to feel that. It's normal for the horse to feel that. But we're the ones with these bigger prefrontal cortex and bigger brain so then it's about recognizing, okay, I feel afraid, or my horse feels afraid. That is okay. But what are the steps I can take to, change this, to rewire this neural patterning for my horse, to help them calm down, to calm myself down? And I think one of the most important things that I've actually learned from my horses is, as I became a better horse person, and as my horses improved, and my horses were, showing me what was going on with them, but then also showing me how they could let go, and they could chew and relax and lick and relax their top lines. When we give them the skills, they're very willing to let go. Like, they're very willing to let go. Yeah. And I find that's something I need to do better in my life, right? Like, cause like, it's really easy for all the anxieties and all the things of the day to build up and build up and build up. And for me personally, to hold on to them. But then if I say, you know what? No, I don't need to hold on to this. Like that email that made me upset about such and such, or the phone call that said this one thing I was hoping was going to happen is not going to happen for 4 to 6 months or whatever. Okay, it is what it is. What can I do to try to make it better? What can I do to figure it out? And then, can I let it go and not just hold it all in? Because I'm the type of person, I'm going to hold it all in and then, and I think that's the same thing with the horse, right? It was working with you, and you taught me about the rabbit principle, which came from Warwick Schiller, right? About the rabbits build up the horses. They don't spook at rabbit number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but rabbit number 13, and they're off the, spinning around the trail and running away because they didn't deal and let go of those other rabbits that they all saw. So
true. I lost you for some reason. I mean, you're there. I'm just trying to figure out what something happened, but well, I think we have less than a minute left, but I am just so happy to I'm so happy to have you on, and so grateful to have you as my guest. And let's plan another one of these. And I just thank you for everything that you've done for the industry, and sharing your story. And I can't see you. I don't know if you can see me or not, but
I can still see you. And yeah, if we need to
but yeah,
fix
so
it up later, we can, for sure.
Yeah, so let's thank you so much. And this is our first podcast to Horses a Second Language, and we will talk to you soon. And thank you again for being on this. And your knowledge is amazing, and I can't wait to have you on again.
Thanks, Doug. Take care.
Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.